Let's start. Let's start off the call with this. Thank you very much for joining on this Saturday. You could have been doing absolutely anything, but you decided to hop on Crypto Saturdays. Something myself and Gil have been running now for a few months, to be honest. We've been going strong, not missing one single week. And honestly, many of you have been consistent too. So let's go in the Telegram chats. If you are in the Powerhouse private community, go in the Telegram, put OTC, put OTC in Texas Powerhouse, put OTC in Nevada, put OTC in Arizona, put OTC in Powerhouse. Let's go make it wide and clear that this call is active. Because let me tell you, many people want to join, but they just forget what the time it is. And they have other things going on. So appreciate all of you hopping on. We are going to dive straight into things. Currently I'm in New York. You can appreciate the kind of artwork in the back. New York is culturally diverse. I love the energy out here. And so, let's dive into what's been going on for the week, which I'm excited to dive into. Let's see what we got going on. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in one moment. And hey, let me mention one thing, guys. For those of you who missed maybe one or two of the weeks in the past few months, whatever it is, just know that we record our calls and they are usually posted on the YouTube channel, whether it's my sales channel or Gil's channel. So you can go there and check out the ones that you've missed if you wanted to see from previous weeks. Now, there's been a lot of things going on in the markets. So let me go ahead and share my screen. A lot of things going on. And as of recent, family, we've been touching on a lot of stocks. We've been diving into the equities world and rather than just the alternative assets world with crypto and the usual things that we're trading or speaking on. And I think that's been very good to give us a wider perspective. So regarding crypto specifically, what's been going on, guys, you know how we start these calls. Tether has been targeting a $15 to $20 billion raise, making it one of the world's largest private companies. So put a 10 in the chat if you know what Tether is, who Tether is. Put a 10 in the chat if you know about USDT, right? It's one of the world's largest, most commonly used stable coins, pegged 1-to-1 with the dollar. And even though we don't necessarily recommend holding your funds in Tether for many reasons, especially with the collaboration, or let's just say like the connection is probably the better, looser term to use with the governments, it's still a stable coin to use. We often speak about using USDC or DAI, DAI as good alternatives, but typically, BUSD, Binance's stablecoin, or USDT, we try to stay away from for those reasons. However, this is big news because for a few things. Number one, many crypto companies have been IPOing, right? Have been basically listing on the stock exchange, becoming a public company. And that's been a very, very good thing so that any type of investor of any level of wealth can invest in that project. But Tether, they're not IPOing. They are simply raising capital. And so they're actually offering a 3% stake in their business. And that actually equates to a $500 billion valuation, which does make it one of the largest private companies. There's one thing that I found interesting, okay? I want you guys to read this here. The company recently revealed plans to launch a US-based stablecoin called USAT, designed for US residents. So that's interesting. Why? Because I didn't know they had ideas of a US-based stablecoin, and that kind of just goes on to the fact of their connection, maybe with government entities, and obviously their rival Circle. You guys know USDC. We just spoke about it. They recently went public, and they did incredibly well, incredibly well. And I'm going to actually show you guys just how well they did. It's pretty incredible. They actually IPO'd at $31 per share, which I found really interesting because you started out at $31 and then the high was like $260. So, we talk about big gains in the crypto space, right? We talk about higher ROIs. Did you know, like, there's those similar ROIs in stocks? I mean, guys, from $31 to $260, that's like a 9x. That's like an 8x, sorry. That's like 8 times your money just from the day that the project went to a public company and people were buying and trading it in the stock market to, what was this? This is January, February, March, April, May, to like July. Like, that's crazy. Like, it was only around about 1 to 2 months when they went from $31 to 260. So, if we're talking about stocks and other assets and investments that could be good for us long term, Circle's definitely one of them. And you're going to see other companies do so, like Gemini filing for to do an IPO, and other crypto companies as well. So that's interesting. Now, Visa and Stripe are collabing with a company called Fold. Never heard of them, I'll be honest, to release a Bitcoin credit card. Now, put a five in the chat if you've heard about these Bitcoin credit cards. You've heard about multiple companies trying to give you a reward, a percentage reward for every dollar you spend in a supermarket or whatever it is, and give it back to you in Bitcoin. Now, I went to the website because I thought, hey, let me have a little look what's going on. Now, this is actually bigger than just a crypto card. There's a couple of things about this. Number one, let me go over here. Number one, there seems to be some form of function about getting paid ahead of time for your paycheck. That's what I'm kind of looking at. I'm looking at some form of like forward invoicing, some form of like forward invoicing payment, which is quite interesting. And then it says here with zero fees. Now, there's never zero fees. So what I think it's referring to is really the zero fees on either buying it or either transacting it, but not zero fees in terms of there's going to be, not one fee for any of the services that you utilize within here. Otherwise, how are they going to make money? So definitely need to look into that, to be honest. And then, yeah, pay bills, get rewards. So imagine paying off your mortgage or your credit card or other bills, but you're getting 1.5% back in Bitcoin for every dollar spent. And so if we compare it to like other credit cards, like, you have the Apple card, you get 1% on anything and everything you spend. Well, there, I looked at some of their terms. Basically, it's 1.5% on everything you spend. So it's a little bit better. And obviously, you get a physical card with it. And obviously, you can directly invest in Bitcoin. Now, another benefit is this: it's FDIC insured, supposedly, up to 250,000. So we know that if you have money at your bank, whether it's First United, whether it's Chase, whether it's HSBC, whether it's, I don't know what the others are. Well, your funds at the bank is obviously protected, right? In terms of if something was to occur, up to 250,000 you can get back. But in crypto, it's not the case. You have money in Kraken, Coinbase, Binance, you name it. Like if something goes wrong internally, guys, they don't owe you to pay you back. So the fact that you can invest in Bitcoin and have certain things FDIC insured, I kind of like that idea. So yeah, this was something that I found interesting. Let's move on to the next one. Emirates signed an MOU with Crypto.com to enable crypto payments. So we already know that more and more companies are allowing people to either pay in Bitcoin or transact in Bitcoin. And the reason why these companies are doing it is because it benefits them from many aspects. Number one, accessibility. More people can access their products if they don't want to use traditional finance and they want to use crypto. Now they can go to that company compared to a competitor who doesn't have the crypto ability. But also number two is that it actually benefits them to hold crypto on their balance sheets because it's an appreciating asset rather than choosing to do, let's say, like debt financing, for example, to enable them to have more cash, or let's say to raise money, for example. Like those are like alternatives which don't have the pros of accumulating, appreciating over time. Now, an MOU is basically a memorandum of understanding. That's all it is, guys. So this isn't like a contract that Emirates, a multi-million-dollar plane flying company, airline company, and Crypto.com, which is one of the world's largest crypto exchanges in the globe, guys. This is not like a contract of, yes, like I'm going to do it right now. Like, here's the terms. This is more like a conceptual understanding of like, hey, like this is an idea, but we don't have the financial specifics yet of how it's going to work, but we're open to have conversations. And so they're basically in talks with Crypto.com for that, which is sick because we take a lot of flights. I would love to pay for flights in Bitcoin with Emirates because Emirates is a great company. I went from Dallas to Dubai using Emirates and I absolutely loved it, guys. Like they literally give you a menu, sat in economy, like it's crazy. The last thing here, SEC. This SEC, as you guys know, is the financial regulation in America for US companies. They're looking at something called innovation exemption. Now, put a five in the chat if you remember when we spoke about the US Stablecoin Act. Put a five in the chat if you remember when we spoke about a US Stablecoin Act, which I'm forgetting the name now. I'm actually going to search it. There's a certain name. Gilroy remember. Genius Act. Haha, there we go. Put a five in the chat if you remember I was speaking about the Genius Act. That's basically has created like a framework for companies to create stablecoins in America. Some of you may remember that, cool, right? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm seeing some five. Some of you remember it. Cool. And so has anyone here ever used it? Oh yeah, that's about the cards, guys. I haven't crypto cards. No, I didn't get the crypto.com card back in the day, but Gil does have the card. I remember 2 years ago when he unboxed the crypto.com card. It's amazing. And they're getting like, different tiers, like 5% on rewards. And then some offer higher percent. You get like free Netflix memberships for some of them, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so Catherine, amazing. So you remember that. So we spoke about the Genius app, guys. Well, this is basically, it's not the same, but what it does is it's enabling crypto companies to be more innovative and creative without having strict regulations. So the whole goal is that people aren't scared to innovate within the crypto space and launch because they're going to get sued by governments for breaking rules and regulations. It's basically what it is. And so you can see this article here about it. And they're actually looking to bring this at the end of the year, which will be amazing. This is just another catalyst, guys, for Q4 and the crypto markets to start booming. And as you can see here, it's moving from something that's enforcement based to more innovation friendly based. So these are all positives. And we know what crypto sometimes does in Q4. Q4 is where consumerism's at its highest. You got Thanksgiving, you got Christmas, everyone's spending money. Like these are where sometimes the markets absolutely go ballistic. So that's the news that I have to touch on crypto. And I'm going to spend the next like 5-7 minutes diving in to something else, which is a bit more traditional. And I think it's important that we touch on it because many people don't know. And so I was watching Patrick Kenny on the platform, guys. He's incredible. He speaks a lot on TradFi and he goes in depth. But one of the things that he was mentioning about is bonds and its relationship to the crypto market. Because there was a couple things that happened this week when you go to Forex Factory. So I'm actually going to show you guys something before I dive into this. Where is it? You go over here, Forex Factory. Boom. So this week, for those of us who are day traders, whether we're trading options, whether we're trading futures, whether we're trading CFDs, doesn't matter. This would have affect each and every single one of you. And on Thursday, we had this unemployment claims and GDP. Now, what you want to do when you come to Forex Factory, guys, is as a trader's perspective, this is important. From an investor's perspective, it's a little bit less important, right? Because it's the effect that it will have, like one morning's worth of news, is going to be less, depending on when you want to buy. And so on the right side here, guys, it says actual and forecast. The actual is the actual percent or the number that was released when the news came out, and the forecast is what people predicted and anticipated would have happened. So long story short, red folders means high volatility, like it's a massive news announcement, and yellow folders is like amber, like it's very moderate. It's not really going to affect the markets much, something to pay attention of. Now, if you notice here, the forecast for GDP was going to be 3.3%. Guess what? The actual was 3.8. So the news, this is positive news because GDP ended up being better and higher than expected. Unemployment claims, well, guess what? Unemployment actually decreased from what they forecasted. They forecasted it to be 233,000. It came out at 218,000. Both of those things, tell me in the chat, is this good news or bad news? Is this positive news or bad news? Good or bad? Put in the chat. The fact that GDP was higher than expected and unemployment was lower than expected. This was on Thursday. Put good or bad in the chat. What do you guys think? I'm seeing here the genius. I'm seeing it. Okay, cool. Good. Blanca says good. This is good. Yep. GDP going up means the economy is growing, economic growth, unemployment going down, which means more and more people have jobs and don't have jobs. Nicholas, 100%. All good. This is positive news. And so these things are good news in the market. And obviously it had effect when you look at TradingView and you look at equities and what actually happened. So that was something which I wanted to mention to you guys about. And I don't think we have the time, but could like dive in TradingView and just like show you what happened and what to look out for. But we're going to move on swiftly because time is of the essence. And so I'm going to go over here and show you guys something else. Cool. So what I want to dive into, and just forget the Solana Seeker thing, guys, that was last 2 weeks ago. But what I want to dive into is I want to dive into what is a bond real briefly, right? Because this is something that's not really spoke about, but it affects every single market, guys. And the bond market is huge. So put a 10 in the chat if you feel like you know about bonds, and put a 5 in the chat if you're like, I don't really know too much about bonds. So put a 10 if you're confident about maybe bonds, how it affects the markets, and put a 5 if you're like, I'm not 100% too sure. So we've got 25 in the chat. This is amazing. I see 5, 5, 5. Amazing. Cool. So I notice I'm talking quite fast. I'm trying to be time efficient, so my bad there. But either way, so what is a bond? When you buy a government bond, you're basically lending money to the government, which is used to fund projects and infrastructure. That's all it is. So there's different types of bonds, but government bonds, they basically take your money because you're giving them money, and they're going to invest it in like construction projects. They're going to invest it in massive infrastructure things they need to do. Railways. I went to Florida earlier on this year, and they have something called the Bright Line, and it's just this like incredible high speed train that takes you from Miami to Orlando to West Palm Beach from Fort Lauderdale. It's incredible. But guess what? If that was a government project, the money that we put towards that bond, that's what the government's taking and investing it in states to state. Now, what do you get in return, guys? When you actually put up money for a bond, what do you get? Well, the government gives you a fixed return back to the investor, which is you. And so you basically get a coupon rate on the money that you invested. And these payments continue, these interest payments, you can say, continue until the maturity date of the bond, which basically when the bond expires. So you can see my example here on the right hand side. If you have $1,000 and you invest in a government bond, and the bond type is 10 years, all that means is that it's a 10-year duration for your $1,000 investment. And let's say the coupon rate, which is the interest rate that you're going to get, is 5% annually. Well, then your interest payment is $50 each month. So you get $50 back on your $1,000 investment every month for 10 years. Sorry, every year for 10 years. And if I do $50 times 12 times 10, because it's the number of years, 50 times 10 is $500. So guys, if I was to secure this bond, this government bond, I would then have an amount of $1,000, $1,500 at the end of the 10 years. From 2025 to 2035, $1,500. Now, I understand you're on this call and you're thinking, that's boring, John Luke. like it's a government bond, they build infrastructure, and like I'm only making 5% a year. But here's the thing. This is an example of a low risk, secure investment. And guess what? Old wealth, or like wealth that's been here for decades and decades, they don't have 90% of their portfolio in crypto or alternative assets or what we call non-investment grade investments. They actually have 80% of their funds into things like bonds, into things like stocks, into things that are more longer term investments. And then what they do? Then they put 20, 30% into something like crypto to play around with. Put a 10 in the chat, this making sense. Put a 10 in the chat, this making sense. There we go. There we go. LJ, 100%. Reggie, easy. I mean, yeah, basically, because I'm going to dive into the pros of bonds in a minute. Cool. So you guys are understanding my language, what I'm talking about. And I just realized I'm not recording this call. So do you know what? I'm not even mad I'm not recording this call, because those of you who made it, you're getting the source. Those of you who didn't, unlucky, mate. You're going to have to wait till next year when we do this call again, All right. So what's the benefits? What's the cons? Easy. Benefits, low risk. Low risk. Why is it low risk? Think about this. It's low risk because how on earth is the government going to default on their payments with the debt? We have a lot of debt, but guess what? The government isn't going to default on debt. Otherwise, there'll be nothing. There'll be no government. There'll be no country. It's almost virtually impossible. So you know that when you're making an investment in a government bond, it's not going to go away. Very, very good thing. Whereas if you was to invest in a company, for example, or in a crypto, could they default on their debt and then go bust? 100 million%. And they don't have any obligation back to you. Okay, the second thing, stable income. Stable income. Now, this is, it's fairly stable. That kind of touches on my last point. Let me just have a look here what I got. Okay, cool. Now, the next thing, exempt from taxes. Yes. So, bonds, government bonds, treasury notes specifically, are actually exempt from state and local taxes. I think you pay federal tax on it, but you don't pay state or local taxes. And that's a big, big deal, because a lot of the investments that we have, we don't consider the fact that, if you invest over $10,000 in crypto and you withdraw $10,000, you get CGT, capital gains tax. And that tax could be hefty. When Biden was president, he actually he either increased or tried to, I don't want to get it wrong, but I'm just going to say he tried to increase CGT on your investments. And a lot of people weren't happy about that, because obviously, that means that you get less, you get less back when you make an investment. It's not good. But Trump, obviously being Republican, he's kind of like for the free market. And so his goal is to reduce taxes as an incentive. Cons, inflation risk, guys. Well, here's the thing. I mentioned in this example, the coupon rate was 5%. But in COVID, October, for 1 month in 2022, guys, inflation in America was 11%. I think it was October 2022. 11% is way more than 5%. That means 6% of your money is being lost, right? And let's be real. If the government say inflation is 3% right now, is it really 3%? Did eggs go up 3%? Nah, we already know that's not the real inflation rate, guys. The real inflation rate is a lot higher than that. But what they'll do is they'll basically fabricate or lie to us just to protect the market to make sure it's safe and sound. I was watching what do you call it? JP Morgan. I was watching a JP Morgan movie on Netflix, the TV show thing. And it was about when he was growing up and the story and blah, 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 how he set up the Morgan family and all this stuff. And long story short, JP Morgan and the US government were like collaborating to protect the market when everything was falling down. And they had to like lie and like do things to make sure that investors wouldn't get scared. So there's a lot of stuff in the back end. But just understand that if the coupon rate is lower than the inflation rate, then you're now subject to inflation risk. Keep it in mind. Now, the next things to look at is lower returns. The equities market, which is stocks, obviously provides higher returns than the bond market. We know this. But then you also have more upside and downside risk with stocks as well. So these are things that you want to keep in mind. Obviously, stocks performs better in a growing market than bonds will do, but at least the bonds is more secure. So this is my example, guys. I want you to keep these things in mind. The other thing I wanted to mention is that when are a couple of occasions when the bond market was volatile and like what's the relationship between bonds and equities? So the relationship is this: when bond prices go up, bond yield goes down. Yield is basically almost like the interest rate, and so it makes it cheaper to borrow, and so stocks goes up. Bond prices up, bond yield down, which is the percent on like interest rate, for example, which makes it cheaper to borrow. And then that's when stocks go up. Why? Because if it's cheaper to borrow, guys, people will borrow money and then put it in the stock market. It's very, very simple. And then on the right side, bond prices go down, the yield goes up, which means it's more expensive to borrow because of the interest rates being higher, and therefore stocks goes down. And these are in prices. Why? Because people aren't going to start businesses and start loaning money if it's high interest rates and it's expensive. So that's the relationship that I want you guys to keep in mind. And as you can see here, bond yield is the expectation on the interest rate in Federal Reserve policy. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention to you guys is two examples of when this might be this is actually like applied. And so the first example is 2022, 2023 Fed rate hikes. Put a 10 in the chat if you remember when after COVID, the Fed rate were just like hiking up and up and up and up and up because they wanted to actually protect the economy. That's exactly what happened. And so during that period, bond prices were then going down, the yield was going up, and then the stock market was going down. That's exactly this example right here. That's what happened when the Fed was increasing interest rates up and up and up and up and up. The next example, 2020 COVID. Guys, the stock market collapsed. Let me go over here. I know it's 2:30 now, so let me go over here. The stock market absolutely collapsed, guys. I mean, let's just go to S&P. Just keep it simple. And let's just go back to 2020. Yeah, I mean, just look, like from there, like all the way there. Like it was like 3 months of torture. And then obviously everything started to rise over time. But in this period, stocks going down, bond yields going down, and then bond prices going up. Because here's the thing I want you to keep in mind. This is a really, really important thing. In times of uncertainty, and like write this down, like this is like the last bit of source. In times of uncertainty, in times of volatility, people will move money from the stock market to the bond market. Because in the bond market, there's more security. Even though it's lower returns, the government won't default on their debt. So it's safer. In times where things are growing and there's confidence in the market, people will go from bonds, take it out, and then put it into stocks or equities or crypto. because the market is growing and the interest rates are lower. That's the correlation that you need to write down. Guys, put a 10 in the chat. This is making sense. Put a 10 in the chat if you feel like you got some value. Put a 10 in the chat if you guys are ready for the second half of the call. My guy Gil is going to break down a lot of things about the crypto game. Evan, I'll answer your question. Where do you chase stocks? We can dive into that. But I hope you guys got some value. My bro Gil, take it away, my guy.
For sure, guys. Continue putting the tents for my brother John Luke. He gave a lot of game. These are things that nobody is really talking about, teaching, giving people understanding of. So, he said, bro, I got the topic for the day. I learned some things, honestly, because, even the traditional side is something that's more new to me since my first side of investing was actually untraditional, which was crypto, and then going into the traditional side now. So I really, really love this. Like, put a one in the chat if you've been liking the traditional with the decentralized, the centralized, like coming together on these calls. I mean, that's why it's called crypto and assets, right? Because we wanted to bridge together, right? Crypto and other assets that exist. And having that type of education is really something that I believe a lot of people aren't really getting, which is important because, like I've said before, everything that's traditional, sorry, is transitioning as well. So if you understand traditional, you actually have an advantage because you already understand how finance works as a whole. A lot of people don't look at it that way, but that's where things are diverting and going towards. So I think the information that Luke broke down is super key. And what I'm going to be just going into, guys, to end today's call is really just crypto, right? Where we're at in crypto, where we stand, where is everything going? What is the sentiment right now? And the biggest thing we can see right now is the sentiment is in fear. Put a 5 in the chat if you've seen BTC, you've seen crypto go down, and you're like, yeah, like I feel like there is fear. Because looking at this chart right here, this is the fear and greed index that I like to see. I'm actually watching this more now than ever because I realized that in the bull run, really sentiment is one of the most important things. Yes, price is obviously key and market analysis, but sentiment, I believe in a market that has a lot of reliance on people's emotions because all markets really do. It's very, very key. And as we can see, today we're at 34. This is an index that is used here on CoinMarketCap. Yesterday, we were actually at 32. And I think the day before, we were like at 28. So we were at a very low. And as you can see, this is a chart on the right that you can see the different fear and greed. And you can see that we're here in this area. And you can also see that every single time that we've been in this area, it's been, a bottom of a move. I'm not saying the bottom of Bitcoin. I'm just saying the bottom of a move. And that's a very good news. Now, another thing I'm going to bring you guys right here, and I'm going to come back to this as well, is this. One thing I love to see, and if you know, if you are on these calls, if you're on Zenrai, you're watching Max Terror, or you've been in the sessions for a minute, you know that we want to see negative news. Like literally, that's our best friend. When we see too much positive news, it scares us. We're like, the top might be coming very soon. I know some of his powerhouse we post when things are happening. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but I went to Hawaii, right? And I was getting on my flight and I saw a big ass billboard of Gemini promoting their credit card that gives you BTC and rewards. And for me, I'm like, oh, wait a second. I don't know. That I'm not saying the top is in, but it's starting to happen, guys. Think about it. When BTC was at 16K, there was no such thing as Gemini, Bitcoin, and credit card. I took flights as well during that time. Guess what? There wasn't any Bitcoin advertisement, zero. And now it's like in that tunnel that you get in before the plane, it's like the whole wall on both sides. I was like, damn, like this is it. Today I was watching, I didn't really watch the game because I was at the gym and stuff, but I was watching the recap of the Madrid and Atletico Madrid game. And one thing I saw is that they were promoting Kraken. When I went to Spain, actually, at the top of the market, they were promoting Flow Token. So I already have seen a lot of these things, and seeing headlines like this is actually a really good sign because it means that we still have ways to go. As you guys see, this headline is asking, will Bitcoin finish below or above 105K? And traders are losing faith, guys. This is very good, at least for us, right? Because we want to be on the right side of the markets. And here, because this is a very, very popular website, Decrypt, they did a vote. And most people think it's going to be below 105. I'm not saying it's not going to go below 105, but that shows a lot of the sentiment. Because remember, you want to watch the masses and do the opposite. The masses are on websites that are just free, public, Google, YouTube. That's the masses. It's funny because I had a guy that I was speaking to on Instagram. We connected and he was asking me, he's like, hey, bro, like, what do you know about Pudgy Penguins? And I'm like, yeah, bro, it's a meme coin. You know, it has a good like, you know, community, you can say whatever. But honestly, bro, it's not a good investment right now. And he's like, bro, they're telling me on TikTok and YouTube that it can reach $1. And I'm like, uh, that's what they want you to think. Because I want you guys to know that it's funny because Pudgy Penguins had one of the most biggest moves here from June to like August. But you know what's funny? Most people are buying right now, and this is actually going to go down. Right. So this is just an example to not follow the sentiment that is public. Do your own research. Look at the masses and watch kind of what's really going on and look at the numbers, right? So that's kind of what I want to go through first to watch the sentiment. Now, with the sentiment, we're going to go on the charts, okay? Because I like some good price points that I like for personally when it comes to portfolio building specifically with crypto. Now, this is a chart that I use every single time, guys. It's called the total market cap. This shows all the money in crypto. And these are two areas that I've been having mark up for at least the last week that I really like. The first one is Bitcoin coming to not Bitcoin, sorry, all of crypto coming to $3.5 trillion. This is the first area I kind of see as rejection because for the ones that trade smart money, like put a 5 in the chat if you trade smart money, we can see that there's an imbalance right here. Okay, there's a very obvious imbalance. Also, previous resistance becomes support. You know, I know for some of y'all it can sound retail, but on higher time frame, guys, it really does very efficient, and it's also the imbalance. So it kind of goes together, and it could also even come a little bit lower potentially here. So these are two areas that I like. You know, Bitcoin or all of crypto, sorry, coming to 3.5 trillion or coming around 3.2 trillion. Now, Gil, what does that mean, right? What does that mean for all the market? That means that everything will go down as well. Okay. The bigger the token, the least of the decrease it will have. The smaller the token, the bigger decrease it will have when the total market cap decreases. That's why Pudgy Penguins are going to decrease 50%. And hey, could it be another investment? I don't even call it an investment, but could it be another entry at a lower area? Of course, I think it could be, right? But is understanding that is very key. So what we're going to go through, you know, kind of just going really quick, going straight to like BTC. As you can see, these are similar areas. I like BTC or I think it will maybe wick 105, but who knows, guys? After me watching that headline today, what if it doesn't? What if it actually doesn't and it actually goes up now, right? So I could see this happening as well. All we want to look for is structure. And I want you guys to know this first, and you guys have heard this before. BTC moves first, okay? When there's bear market, right? Small bear market to then go to higher highs, the first crypto you will see move and you want to follow is actually BTC, okay? So what I want to look for on the smaller time frame is some sort of break of structure, right? As we can see right now, we have what we call consolidation. So what I want to see going into this next week is can we start to create higher highs and higher lows, maybe on the 4 hour, maybe on the 1 hour, to give me an indication if it's going to reject where it's at, or is it going to break below? So it could reject here, mostly because I saw the 105 thing. I don't know. That kind of shows me that it might not, but maybe it might, right? And just wick it and keep going. So what does that do for the rest of the cryptos? Okay. We're going to go through as well some projects I'm going to call at the very end that I think we should watch your eyes on it. Maybe on the next call, we go to like new projects, low cap coins and stuff like that, just for like educational purposes. But I really believe right now in the big ones that we've been talking about. I know Chainlink has been one we've been talking about a lot, guys. Put a link in the chat, put LINK link in the chat. If you've heard of Chainlink, if you're in Powerhouse, you've heard of Chainlink almost like every single day somewhere, okay? This is a project that we really have a high interest in, and there's a reason for it, guys. It's not just a hype. It's not just for because we're not saying to only have that token as well, but we understand what it's doing. It's basically data. It's the protection of data. It runs the data of basically every blockchain now. Just to give you guys FYI, Okay, these are things that people don't really talk about. Chainlink used to only do that for Ethereum. I don't think people realize that. They forgot that it only used to work with Ethereum, and it reached a 20 billion market cap, only working with Ethereum. Today, it's not working with just Ethereum. You see this number? These are 70 different chains that Chainlink is involved with now. It's basically all of crypto. Okay, basically, I'm gonna be honest. Basically, all of crypto. So imagine, just put in perspective, if it's been running the data for Ethereum in the last run and it hit 20 billion, how much more could it do when it does the data for all of crypto? Now that's where we're kind of bullish. So right now, Chainlink, I believe it could come to these areas. Anything below 20, though, I'm not gonna lie, I would start executing. Like me just being honest, not like financial advice, just me telling you guys from a chart perspective. If I was to get into Chainlink again or get it for the first time, under $20 is literally going to be a steal. All right. So this is one of the biggest ones I like to see. We're not going to talk about take profits because we can talk about that when things start to crank up. But when it comes to entry and potential accumulation, this is an amazing area for your portfolio. Okay. Now, another one that really comes together with Chainlink because they've partnered together with a lot of different things is Ondo. I've talked about this before, but I really like Ondo, guys. Literally anything around 80 cents, 75 cents, I really like it. Okay. There's a lot of reasons why. You can see that this was a movement down, okay, that took out all this liquidity here. So this is looking to be another entry for the market to come back to. And as we can see as well, there's a lot of liquidity right here as well. Okay, so put a 1 in the chat. You can see that right now. Kind of disappeared. But yeah, liquidity here. Okay, so Ondo, I really like. I think Ondo will be a big sleeper that people aren't paying attention to at all, in my opinion. People won't. By the time people pay attention to this, it's going to be too late. It's a new token as well, guys. It wasn't here in the last run. So I really believe it's doing a lot of good things because RWAs are really needed because guess what RWAs is doing? And it connects back to what I said at the beginning. Traditional going untraditional, going decentralized, right? Well, guess what? RWAs is exactly that. It gives the ability for people to be a part of the traditional markets in the crypto markets, right? So as you can see here, if you go to their website, you can see really what they're doing and why it's so useful and it's needed. And remember, the money going into these markets are not really retail anymore. They're institutions. Right now, retail is not even in the market yet. Retail will get in at the top. Last market, retail is what pushed the market. This market is not retail. It's institutions. And retail money will come at the very tippy top of the market and then lose all their money and sell at the bottom because of lack of education, right? So this is another project, like I said, I really enjoy and I'm liking right now. And another entry is honestly amazing. Now, there's a lot of tokens, obviously, that exist. I think Ethereum, I don't think it's a good entry if you're already in. But if you're looking at it for, whatever trading or whatever, I personally believe that Ethereum could come anywhere around this area right here, right? So it could reject from here now if it wants to. If Bitcoin rejects, this might reject. Or it could come lower around this 3600s, which is very healthy, in my opinion, to then break all-time highs, okay? So those are the couple I wanted to talk about. I want to let you guys know this is the time to look for accumulation. I don't think we have too much time. I believe going into October, we can see some downside to start the month. But I'm telling you guys this, November, December, January, I think will be very bullish. Holiday season is statistically proven to be very, very bullish in the market. Now, another thing I want to show you guys is this real quick that I was looking at this, right? This is a chart that I've seen a lot of educators always talk about. And I found it because I didn't know where to find it. And I found it on CoinMarketCap. And this is something that they show a lot, right? A lot of people on Twitter, a lot of people everywhere, they show this chart a lot. And this is the rainbow price. Now, put a 5 in the chat if you've seen this before. This is just showing kind of like, and it's like an indicator in a way. I don't use too much indicators, but I've looked at this on what happens when it gets to certain colors, right? Just using this as reference. As you can see, every single time at tops, it would break above the red. It would break above the red. The 2 cycles ago, it hit the top of the red. Last cycle, it hit orange, right? So obviously, the color it's hitting is actually decreasing. So I don't think it's going to hit orange anymore, but I think it'll hit at least yellow. At least yellow. And as you can see here, if you look at the numbers for yellow, It's around 199,000, which is 200K to 270K. Okay. So I'm not saying that's going to be the top, but I'm just saying there's a lot of room to go. Right now, we're at the green. Okay. We're at the green. I don't think hitting the green is the top. Okay. So this is just another confirmation, guys, that we have bullish sentiment. We still have a lot of opportunity. That's a very good thing because if Bitcoin has still has room to run, so does everything else. Right. So this is something that I really like to see as well. And last thing I wanted to bring up is here are some projects that I'm looking at. Okay. Now put a 7 in the chat if you want to look at new projects, right? You're already in some projects. I don't think you have to have many tokens. I think if it's your first cycle, 3 to 5 is good to start out. But if you have some play money on the side, like a low cap amount of money, you're like, okay, bad, let me just see what these can do, or you're a little bit more experienced. These are 3 that I wanted to bring up. Okay. The first one I'm going to bring up is called Drift. Drift is something that Max Rotero has talked about on the sessions as well. I want you guys to know that one of the tokens, one of the projects, one of the things that are getting popular are trading platforms. Okay. Perpetual trading is getting popular. Okay. It's being very used, right? We have one that's called Hyperliquid that it's already in the top 20. Hyperliquid. If you've never heard of it, it's one that literally started only as a trading platform. And now it's like a whole DeFi protocol, which is wild, right? It's actually number 18 on the list at $12 billion market cap, right? So there's other tokens that have that same ability. Another one that we've been looking at is Drift. Drift right now is at a great price point. I actually hit my area around less than 70 cents. I think it could give another entry, in my opinion, in the same area. So around 70 cents. But as you guys can see, right, this was first time came out in 2024, meaning it hasn't really seen the massive bull run yet. So it has a lot of opportunity. I have it up here. The cool thing I like about this one, you can trade multiple pairs, which is sick. So a lot of pairs you can trade on here as well. And they're legal in the US because I'm on it right now, right? So you're actually able to operate it. And then there's other ones like Radium that you're not able to do in the US, which is fine. You can use VPNs, but this is very bullish because it's also in the US. So remember, it's its own blockchain. It's its own thing, but it's a trading preps platform that eventually it might go into a DeFi protocol as well if there's certain money in there as well. So I like this project to look forward to. It's a low cap token, okay? Low cap means it's higher risk, higher reward, meaning you shouldn't have most of your money. A lot of people want to get most of their money in these. You don't want to do that, okay? Pick the wrong one. But Drift is one that I highly recommend to just look at, right? Go do your research, go look into it, go hop on the Sentinel mic and kind of see what's going on. But again, market cap only at 300 million, which is not a lot. 1 billion max supply and 368 million circulating supply right now. So it has a good potential of doing some good things. Now, the next 2 I want to talk about is the next one is Superverse. Superverse is another big one because it's another category that I think will be growing in this market, and that's gaming. Put a 9 in the chat, 10 in the chat if you know anybody who likes gaming. I think this is another industry that could grow in this run. In the last run, it did some things, but it didn't do its full potential because it was very new. So now gaming, I think, will see the traction that it should be seeing. And Super is actually a token that it wants to bring all the different gaming tokens that are out there together as one, as a central ecosystem. So this is a very good thing. You have Immutable X partnered with them as well. You have so many, you got obviously Polygon is not that relevant too much anymore, but they're there. You got Injective, which is very key when it comes to certain protocols. But Superverse has another opportunity, another low cap token. I like this around 30 cents. I wanted to break this liquidity right here. I want it down here, guys. I've been waiting for this price for a minute, and I think we will get it if we have another last push. So there's another token, guys, that I want you guys to look into. We might talk about it more going on. And then the last one is going to be Pife. We've talked about Pife before. Pife right now is about to hit my entry. I think it can do it in this last little push. But anything under 14 cents, guys, Pife is huge. Pife is basically doing a lot of what Chainlink is doing. But Pife is focusing on the Solana network. So Pife is doing data operations as well, right? And you can see all this here. Right? Price feeds, that the data that it's the data that it's giving for price feeds it's already doing a lot for Solana's network. So I think Solana is obviously going to be a big project. It is already, but it's only going to grow. And Pipe is a part of that blockchain as a whole. So if Solana grows, so does Pipe. And that's why I like about this, because I understand that data is super crucial in these crypto markets. So I want you guys to look at this as well, guys. Pipe. So again, remember drift really anywhere here. We got Superverse. I want to see this lower. Okay. And then Pipe a little bit lower as well. But remember, these are low cap tokens. So this is something that you put 5%, 3%, 10% of your portfolio, and you just wait and see because it has high potential. Okay. So make sure to look into these guys. Make sure to be plugged in. If you're a part of our community, guys, this is the best time, in my opinion, to be plugged in into the platform. Be plugged in into Mike Sotero. Be plugged in into Patrick Kenny, right? Be informed every single week. If you do not have these people on your schedule, put them on your schedule, because right now the best opportunities lies when most people aren't paying attention. And that is now. So this is Mike Sotero's session. So you guys can see right here, we have them every single week. And if you're not a part of our platform, just know you can get access to that by, wherever you're watching this on YouTube or connecting with us or watching it live. Just reach out. We have certain spots at the beginning of the month, because I think October is going to be a good opportunity. In November, December, January can be very, very bullish potentially. All right, family. So with saying that, guys, I appreciate you guys for being on today's call. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys got some value off of today. We wanted to make it very informative, but not crazy long, and just kind of get straight to the meat and potatoes, like they like to call it. But guys, remember, we do these calls every single Saturday, same time, same place. So make sure to let people know. Today we did great. We had like a good amount, that'll be seen in a minute on today's call. But definitely let the community know about these calls, because these are definitely calls that people don't want to miss. And to get ahead, because remember, most people take off Saturdays, but we want to get ahead. All right. So I was saying that I appreciate you guys for being on today's call. Jean-Luc, I appreciate the value that you always bring. I appreciate you for covering last week because I wasn't able to be on. I know you're always giving game for the squad, and I'll see you guys on the next one. All right, guys. Peace.